Kirkpatrick repeated what he'd heard from Mrs. Groves and Mike East to Jaime Garza, his boss on the drug task force. Commander Garza says he tried, with no luck, to interest local authorities in what was transpiring at the East Ranch, a possible kidnap or unlawful confinement, or worse. So he improvised an alternative strategy for getting law enforcement involved. Garza contacted Ray Ramon, an old friend and law enforcement colleague since deceased. Ramon was then employed as a Texas Ranger based in Alice, the seat of Jim Wells County, about 30 miles northwest of Kingsville. After Garza explained the situation, Ramon reached out for assistance from Ranger Sergeant Robert Hunter, stationed in Laredo, approximately 80 miles northwest of the San Antonio Viejo ranch. Mike East soon heard from Sergeant Hunter, who offered to visit the ranch to conduct a wellness check on Uncle Robert. Unaware of the Garza-Ramon-Hunter connection, East was surprised by the ranger's offer, but glad to accept it. Hunter indicated that he would leave at once for the ranch. As Mike recalls, about an hour later he received a second call from Ranger Hunter, who said he had driven as far as Hebbronville, about 40 miles from the San Antonio Viejo's main gate, where he had stopped to confer with Christopher H. Huff, a state game warden and a friend of his. East also was familiar with Huff, whose territory included his uncle's ranch, where Warden Huff had spent considerable time chasing would-be poachers out gunning for Robert East's huge white-tailed deer. Hunter told Mike that all was well at the ranch. He said Chris Huff had assured him that the old man was in good health and that there was no need for a welfare check. He was returning to Laredo. The contradiction between Hunter's account and what Mike had seen for himself, as well as what he had heard from ranch employees, disturbed East. At one point, he says, Hunter told him, "Those people have guns out there." He wondered how Hunter knew and why that mattered to a Texas Ranger. Hunter also somehow knew of Robert being taken by ambulance that day to see Dr. Michael D. Evans, a Weslaco cardiologist, presumably on account of his AFib. Dr. Evans would also discover 2 aneurysms on Robert's visit, one a huge lesion on his aorta, measuring almost 3 inches by 3 inches, just below the renal artery. Aneurysms generally do not develop quickly. This one's size suggested that Robert, who had a history of cardiovascular issues, had not received a thorough cardiovascular exam in quite some time. Although Ranger Hunter failed to personally check on Robert, Helenita Groves would not. On the fair and hot Saturday morning of May 26th, she climbed into her silver Suburban, carrying a court order secured by Ed Hennessy. With Hector Munoz at the wheel, she traveled about 100 dusty miles from her residence in Kleberg County, across an ancient seabed to her cousin's ranch, approximately 40 miles north of the Rio Grande. They reached the San Antonio Viejo's main gate at about 11 o'clock that morning. Helenita had worked her will as usual, but what Mrs. Groves now discovered would turn her day hellishly surreal. There was a guard who looked like an N.C. Wyeth pirate, she remembers. This was Celestino, known as Tino Canales. Despite his appearance and station in life, Tino Canales had recently become one of 3 trustees of Robert East's management trust, as well as a director of his estate. On paper, the gate guard stood to soon become a rich and powerful man. Instead of having a bandana on his head, he had a baseball cap on backwards, says Mrs. Groves. He had a patch over one eye, and he looked pretty unsavory. We had to show him the court order. Then we went through. They were met at the house by the foreman, Oscar Ozuna, who was polite but quiet and watchful, she recalls. Like the gateman, Ozuna had lately become a trustee.